this is what Walt Frazier. No, this what was it? Walt Frazier?
Joe Frazier?
Is that what he said? Who was it that he said that he taught that?
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down to Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Yo.
Each week, we take a look back in time, decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. Review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all the information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you'd like to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel, where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing tonight?
Gene, it's an exciting part of the year. The winter has broken. We're getting into the early spring, the summer's around the corner, and I think it's a good time for sports. We are about a week or two away from opening of Major League Baseball. We're in the middle of March Madness. I imagine that the NBA is at some point going to go to the playoffs. It's an exciting time. People are starting to get active, go outside. You could see that anybody who's watching the videos, I'm highly burned, and I was lectured by Emma and Vanessa for not wearing sunscreen as I venture outdoors in the hot Florida sun. And it's a perfect tie-in to our wonderful listeners in the community. Steve has been the commissioner for fantasy football, fantasy baseball. We did a fantasy Premier League at some point. And each of the years that Steve has run the league, the prize at the end is to commission a film. And that's what tonight's film is. So it is a film about sports, won by one of our great listeners who was participating in a sports fantasy league. And it was for Steven. And Steven won the NFL. I think this is his second championship. And this year, he wanted to commission the 1976 American independent sports drama, Rocky.
Yes, the Jenkins football dynasty. And Steven wrote in and said, "Hey, Gene and Dick, I'm back for the second year in a row as the Shat the Movies fantasy football champion. For this year's commission, I'm going with the 1976 Sylvester Stallone sports classic, Rocky. While certainly smaller and quieter than its flashier later sequels, the original Rocky, for me, still works in 2026 as a classic underdog sports film. Maybe because when I grew up, I, like Rocky, felt at times overlooked and underestimated. I'm positive that when you guys watch it with fresh eyes, you'll remember how almost nothing happens for long stretches. There's no relentless score, no slick editing, and no forced emotional beats. But for me, that's why it works in 2026. While most movies seem to sprint to a predictable finish and force emotional feelings down your throat, Rocky instead lets scenes breathe with its restraint and reliance on grit, sweat, and heart over fake drama. And yes, the main star of the show, the boxing choreography, is dated a bit, but emotionally, the final fight still lands for me. Not so much because of the action in the ring, but because of the slow buildup to the point that makes you, or at least me, care less about the outcome and more about how Rocky wins simply because he doesn't quit. I don't know. You guys clearly didn't like Hoosiers, my commission from last year, as much as I did and still do. So this slow burning boxing movie may bore you to tears. And if it does, my apologies. But I still love it and hope newer generations give it a try. Thanks, guys, as always, for the podcast. And thanks again to Hot Sauce Steve for keeping the Fantasy Football League going. I look forward to next season to see if I can go for a three-peat. Sincerely, Stephen Jenkins.
So Stephen says it's a slow burn, right? This is not Deer Hunter. So we're not going to say that that's what this film is, or even Hoosiers. But dear listeners, I want you now, I imagine very few of you have sat down and watched the 1976 original Rocky, but you may have a picture in your head of what this film is. So as we start out, I want you to think in your head, how much of Rocky is about boxing? Like in your head right now. And I'm not going to say how long it is because it's surprising. But right now, think about what percentage of the film actually is fighting. Because we'll discuss it later. I'll bet you people think it is almost 50-50.
Nobody thinks that. You're talking about actual fighting or like any element of boxing?
Any element of fine.
Like talking to boxing, training boxing.
No, me being like talking to my trainer. No, and fuck it, I'm going to do it right now, Gene. So we're going to get to it. So it's not like I'm going to hold out like suspense. There is 8 to 10 minutes of actual boxing.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be at least like maybe.
What do you think this is like blood sport?
75-25.
I mean, even in blood sport, Van Damme spent most of his time in his undies or like jumping from boat to boat.
This is not a boxing film, and that's my point. This is a romantic, like it's a romantic drama. It's a love story.
Absolutely.
Set to baseball or set to boxing.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as we've established that, but don't come into this thinking this is like a boxing movie that has love as a backdrop.
I don't think anybody thought that.
I think there are some people out there.
That's why so many baseball movies exist, right? Because it's like you can go through a game and there's all the conversations that are going on and management decisions and all that stuff. But when it comes to boxing, like you don't want, trust me, you do not want to watch more than about 8 minutes of boxing in a movie. It's going to get a little shit. It already did get monotonous. And Big D, as I mentioned on our Men in Black episode, I host a Rocky marathon complete with raw eggs in the morning. We have cheesesteak at lunch and Italian style meatballs at dinner. It runs from sunup to late night, and we watch all the Rocky movies. And every time we do it, I guess that's what you're intimating here, there is someone who either hasn't seen the Rocky movies or never really paid attention, and they thank me afterward. And that's exactly what they say. I thought this was going to be all about boxing, but really there's so much more. There's a love story there. It's inspirational. And not all the Rocky movies are gems. I will come out and say that. But this one holds a sacred place in my personal pantheon.
See, here's what I'm thinking. You said that people like you lump it all together, right? Like you're talking about the Rockies.
Yeah.
I think the entire franchise blends together to some element. Let's go back. And because I was excited when we got this commission, and I already had the knowledge inside that my memory of the franchise was shaped by 3, 4, 5. And, you know, I haven't seen the Creed spinoffs or some of the last ones where we get old Stallone coming back. So I was expecting this to be First Blood all over again. If you ask people about First Blood, they're going to think it's Rambo out there shooting at a helicopter, you know, him like crazy, like extreme action over the top, blowing up Vietnamese soldiers with arrows with explosive tips. That's what they're going to think it is. But it's not. You go back and you watch Rambo, or you watch First Blood, it's about the American soldier coming home from Vietnam to an American society that does not want them around. It's about the way that they were treated. There is I fucking hate the Roger Roper gritty. There's a grounded tone to it, right? None of the other Rambos are that. None of the other Rockies are that. Can you imagine if you made the other Rockies with the same topics? Like, okay, Rocky goes to Russia, but you make it like the tone of the first Rocky.
Right. Yeah,
that would be something.
You make Drago a sort of a sympathetic character, which they do to an extent.
Yes.
But like Drago is actually just a decent dude, and like Rocky's still slumming it up. You know, he's not doing crazy workouts in the snow. He's just bumming around with Paulie.
Yeah, Rocky, you know, maybe Drago, he was sent to Siberia, you know, because his father had dissented against the government. And at the end, Rocky and Drago would come together, you know, in a way, just not like Rocky does, where he's like, we could all be friends.
For the rare people who have not seen like Rocky 4 and 3 and 2 and have only seen the original Rocky, I'm talking like 5 people out there. I don't even know I'm doing this, but I think I have to do it for my own edification. Rocky gets like a robot. Mr. T shows up. You've got Cold War implications. People die. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a robot sex butler for Paulie.
Robot sex butler.
Do you remember? She speaks like sexy, like, oh, Paulie. Yeah, and then we get montages of him driving a Ferrari through a tunnel to No Easy Way Out. It's a very different movie.
Well, Rocky is the 1976 independent sports drama written by and starring Sylvester Stallone. It is the first installment in the Rocky franchise and also stars Talia Shire, Burt Young, Carl Weathers, and Burgess Meredith. In the film, Rocky Balboa, a poor, small-time fighter from Philadelphia, gets a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship held by Apollo Creed. Rocky entered development in March 1975 after Stallone wrote the screenplay in 3 days and refused to allow the film to be made without him in the lead role. United Artists eventually agreed to cast Stallone after he rejected a six-figure deal for the film rights. With an estimated production budget of just $1 million, Rocky became the highest-grossing film of 1976, earning approximately $225 million worldwide. The film received critical acclaim for Stallone's writing, as well as the film's performances, direction, musical score, cinematography, and editing. It received 10 Academy Award nominations and won 3, including Best Picture. It has been ranked by numerous publications as one of the greatest films of all time, as well as one of the most iconic sports films ever. The first sequel in the series, Rocky II, followed soon after in 1979. Let's hit the trailer.
His name is Sylvester Stallone. He's the star of a new film called Rocky. He has been described as handsome, tough, talented, sexy, sensitive, dynamic, and brilliant. He's been compared to Brando, Newman, Pacino, and De Niro. He's been called a top contender for an Academy Award. Sylvester Stallone in Rocky, rated PG.
To mark the upcoming United States bicentennial, heavyweight champ Apollo Creed plans to hold a title bout in Philadelphia, but his scheduled opponent is unable to compete due to an injured hand. Having already invested heavily into the fight, Creed selects Rocky Balboa on the basis of his nickname, the Italian Stallion. Reluctant at first, Rocky eventually agrees to the fight and begins training with fighter-turned-trainer Mickey Goldmill.
So, Gene, this movie opens, and I have to wonder what kids of this generation think when they watch films like this from the 70s. We've done a couple recently, 70s and early 80s, where America doesn't look too good. I mean, we did The Deer Hunter. Blue-collar, towns were rough. Cities were rough. We did The Warriors in New York City, and the anytime we see a burn barrel in the middle of a city, Gene, we know we're in for fucking trouble. And that's what the 70s and the 80s were. Because this movie opens, and you said it's on a budget. It was shot a lot with the guerrilla tactics, where they would put a camera out in the street and they would film. So it is real. And Steven said, we don't get the theme and the music. We do. It immediately opens with the memorable Rocky theme. And I'm thinking this is going to be epic. It's going to be triumph. It's going to be greatness. And it opens to Rocky fighting in this filthy, smoke-filled church. And it looks like it's a basement in Philadelphia or a church. It's sweaty. It's loud. The people are screaming. It feels uncomfortable. It feels claustrophobic. It's dark. It feels almost post-apocalyptic. And they're fighting under this image of Jesus, and it's chaotic. It's low rent. And to me, I was shocked at this. It looks like some of the movies you've done before in post-apocalyptic. This could have been Snake Plissken fighting in that ring with that big bald dude with the bat with the nails, or RoboCop with Detroit City. This was such a different New York or Philadelphia. America was a dirty place. I was not prepared for it to be as bad as it was. I knew Rocky grew up as a working class guy, down on the docks, breaking legs, but I didn't expect it to be this bad.
Allow me to counteract your sanitized, private equity addled, Chipotle chic worldview. Philly is beautiful in this movie. America used to have goth clubs in old buildings, dive bars, affordable neighborhoods, and character, right? You would walk down a street in a city and the shops were owned by quirky people And they didn't always have the right stuff. They just had quirky stuff in their shop. There was no curated experience. There was just realness. And I was sighing looking at all we've lost. I was looking at these neighborhood streets and I was like, I want to go there. That's where I want to be. I don't want to be in this world where everything looks the same. Everything is zoned. That's not for me.
And I need to defend you to our listeners who might think, number one, Gene is being like a hipster who's making these. When you said, I want to visit a place like that, it can get a little tour. Like I know in Rio, in the favelas, they have tours of the favela and Westerners and Americans come. So you're not talking about viewing this world as a way to go as a tourist and view, hey, look at the way the people live. They're so quirky. That's not what you're saying. I understand you appreciate the genuineness of this place and the people who live there. I'm just saying that anyone in this film, Rocky included, are desperate. They're sad. They're feeling like they're losers, like they have no opportunities. So in that, I think this was a sad place.
I just wanted to counter the fact that you said it looked post-apocalyptic. And to me, I think it looks like what America looked like when it looked great. I mean, I think about that in Arizona all the time, right? Arizona did not always look like it does now. Arizona kind of looked like a dusty desert sort of place. Like we did not have pools and golf courses. And I see photos from those days and I know I'm getting middle-aged. I know I'm nostalgic, but I miss when America looked like millions of people got together and there was no game plan. They're just like build stuff and let's do it. And Rocky's got a little slice of that kind of tugged at my heartstrings.
Yeah. So I think for me, it's the desperateness of the situation that we idolize the 80s, the 70s, as every generation does. Like it was a time to be alive with freedom was around. Dude, these people were pretty fucking, they were in a bad situation. You look at Rocky, right? You think Rocky was this big winner. Rocky's record was like something, it was like terrible as a boxer. I have it here.
44-20.
44-20 people. Okay. They break down the numbers of what a boxer was making then. So he has his first fight with Spider, right? That's the guy who he beat. The loser share, Spider started out getting $40. Then the man's got to stick it to him. He takes $15 for the corner in the locker room, $5 for the shower, 7% tax. Spider walked away with an ass kicking and $17.20, right? The winner share, Rocky, $65 minus the 15, $5 for the shower and towel, 7%. Rocky walked out of there with $40.52. It's a pretty desperate situation that he's in. And I gotta love Rocky. He's a memorable character. He changes later on, as we talk about, into some superhero. But here he is some schleppy Italian dude in ill-fitting sweatpants, endearing in the way that he is. We know he's had a rough life. He's been boxing and he's maybe punch drunk, but he will not shut the fuck up, right? And I feel guilty for saying this because I know you're going to defend him. And I know this was like Stallone's first writing credit, but it is like a constant stream of consciousness. And I don't think it's brain damage, right? But he just keeps talking. It's as if he's narrating his life and he's jumping from thought to thought to thought without any structure. And I'm feeling like he's thinking out loud. Everything is yo, and he's rambling, and he does stuff. Yo, look at that train. That train's got wheels, and it's really loud. And, hey, kids, what are you drinking there? I had a friend who had a sister. Hey, Paulie. It is one continuous stream of consciousness, and I feel like it's too much. I know we want him to be an everyman. He's not that bright. He's going to be the champion. It's like it's the opportunity for the guy who was down on his luck, the guy who felt like a loser. But to me, it just felt like a little bit too much. And I just wish they had toned it down a little bit. It didn't bother you?
No, not at all. There's another character like this, Popeye. Popeye was like that. He'd always be talking to himself. And I think that there's two reasons for this, and it makes perfect sense. One is he's lonely. So he talks to the turtles. He talks to Moby Dick, the fish. He talks to himself because he's lonely. He lives by himself. He doesn't have friends and family around. Paulie is his best friend to give you a measure of like how his social life is going. And also, Rocky wants everyone around him to be all right. He wants everyone around him to like him. And that's just the core of who this character is. I think this tendency to overtalk, it's a brilliant establishment of the character, and it makes him so endearing. And he's also a lot like Arnold Schwarzenegger, because you can tell, I think, as you were just saying, it's not brain damage. He's a smart guy. He leans into people's prejudices toward him for his humor. And in order to do that, you have to be smart yourself, right? He knows the way he talks, the way he looks, and he plays into that. Is he very chatty? Yes. Do I love it? Also, yes.
And I will give you that. And I think you're correct. There's a difference between people who are not intelligent and people who have not an opportunity to learn. He is inquisitive. He is like a child in many ways. So I should start to think of him that way. At some point, his growth had been stunted. He's 30 years old. We don't see any formal structure of anyone who's been there to guide him, to teach him, to help him become an adult. So in that, I think I should try to view him more as a child trying to find his way. And even though he's not, he's done some bad things, he could have been far worse. He could have been into drugs. He could have been Paulie. I think maybe that's it. You have two opposite sides of it. Paulie is what happens when lack of opportunity, unhealthy relationships go wrong with substance abuse. And Rocky, he still seems to be that good-hearted guy.
Paulie's got the nicer house.
That's because he was in the Navy.
Yeah,
he's got that sweet pension or disability.
Well, since you asked about the dialogue, Big D, I want to applaud Stallone's writing. Now, obviously, he won lots of accolades. He won Best Picture. He threw the screenplay together, as I mentioned, in a few days. He refused to hand it over unless he could star in the movie, and he absolutely delivered by writing lines that weren't fancy or eloquent, but worked. And they worked because they were raw. And I kept thinking, like, I am a trained editor, right? I get paid to write things. If I were writing this movie, I would second guess myself constantly. And I think that speaks to Stallone's confidence and his understanding of this character, because looking at this dialogue in the script, I'd say, man, they use the word stinks a whole lot. Everything stinks. This guy says this stinks. My house stinks. This job stinks. And what about Rocky's house would Mick not like? You don't like my house? What would he not like? It's not really a house, is it? It's an apartment. So, I mean, you shouldn't say house because it's his home, but it's not his house. It's an apartment. What do they call an apartment in Philly? Oh, it's a John. So you should say, well, you don't like this John? Like, that's what he would say. But no, Stallone, he kept it simple. It's so believable and it's so in place, limiting the dialogue to the lexicon that Rocky would have. There I go, right? The lexicon that Rocky would have access to. I thought this was a real person. I did not know as a kid the difference between Rocky and Sylvester Stallone. When I saw Rambo, I thought John Rambo was being played by Rocky. That's how thin the line is between Sylvester Stallone and this character. And he's so believable.
And if you think about how dumb, like, we make fun of the Yo Adrian, when he's on TV or when he's in the middle of the ring, the Yo Adrian, that conveys everything.
On TV, it's not just Yo Adrian. The best part is he's on TV. He goes, Yo Adrian, it's me, Rocky. Like, she can't fucking see him.
But then it cuts to her and she's like, Rocky. Like, she's in a different place. But yeah, it's so simple and raw, but it's instantly recognizable. And he's almost like a Philadelphia Yoda. He is spitting out, not only is he walking around with a stream of consciousness, he will be giving advice and tips to everyone. And his little things about, like, and I got some great quotes here. It ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get up after you've been hit and move forward. And he says, I just want to go the distance. Nobody's ever gone the distance with Apollo Creed. I want to go the distance. I wasn't just another bum in the neighborhood. He's great. And then he has relationship advice. I got gaps. You got gaps. Gene, together we fill gaps. It's very true. Gene, you and I, we could apply this to our relationship. I think we'd make a couple of sharp coconuts, me and you. Mm-hmm. I ain't too smart and you're kind of shy. These are all great, like, little piece of advice. Mickey's telling them women weaken men's knees. You're going to eat lightning and crap thunder. There is no tomorrow. The dialogue is great. You got to give the man credit, right? If you can achieve something or you won't achieve something, they're both true. It depends if you believe it. Stallone had no business thinking, I'm going to hold a studio hostage. They actually sold the rights and he forced them to bring it back. Who is this Goombats walking into Hollywood telling them, I'm going to show you how it's done? But the guy did it. He had the belief in himself. But on the other side of it, we got the Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous, confidence is a dangerous double-sided blade.
That's some shady shit going on in the Bay Area. Rocky begins to build a romantic relationship with his best friend Paulie's shy sister, Adrian. Rocky trains extensively for the championship fight, while Apollo is unconcerned about the match and puts more effort into promotion than training. The night before the match, Rocky confesses to Adrian that he does not believe he can win, but strives to go the distance against Creed, which no other fighter has done.
So, Gene, going back into these movies now as adults with long-term relationships, I analyze the characters and stories that didn't resonate with me as a kid. So Adrian was somebody I focused on right away, and I think I'm interested in her because in my mind I was thinking of her as this strange shut-in, like this future cat lady. Watching it now, she's the most interesting character to me in the movie. Everyone around her treats her like there's something wrong with her. And they call her, everybody in the neighborhood says, hey, she's retarded. Hey, Rocky, she's retarded. Take her to the zoo. She likes the animals. No, she's just quiet. She's awkward. She's intelligent. She's sensitive. And she's stuck in the middle of this apocalyptic hellscape. Of course, she's going to stay inside and be limited in her relationships and how she's going to meet people. And she doesn't talk much. And she doesn't get out. And Rocky sees something in her. I think they're both kindred spirits who maybe didn't have a loving relationship. She's only got Paulie. He's got nobody. And he's drawn to her because she maybe makes him feel good about himself. And I used to date a girl like this, Gene, and I don't know why. I always found myself, maybe because I had low self-esteem. Let's be honest. At the point when I was first dating, a lot of the girls that I did go out with weren't the best looking, weren't the most desirable, but I liked them because I think, honestly, I saw a lot of me in them.
Ew.
I saw potential. I saw what was there under the surface, right? And I actually dated a girl once, Gene. She was a very religious family. She played the fucking accordion.
Hell yeah.
All right. She kept to herself. She was awkward and shy. So I always gravitated to that. Rocky does. And now watching it, she looks good, Gene. Yeah. She's not as awkward and strange. When she comes out all dressed up, confident with her hat, she's in the room after Paulie brings Rocky over for Thanksgiving, and you think she's in there like crying or hiding, and Rocky's like, "I told you she didn't want to go out." She comes out with her jacket ready to go. I was like, "Man, this is gold in Philly."
She's also such an important character in this movie, Adrian. Every time the emotional core of Rocky feels like it's slipping away, and we see where it can go in the sequels, right? Like it can get way off the rails as far as losing its heart. But in this one, she brings it right back to what this movie is about, the core of it. Like you said, it's not really a boxing movie. It's a love story with some boxing in it. Rocky is beating up beef sides to train. It's a little super heroic, right? Like, oh, he's doing some different kind of training, and that's what's going to give him the edge, like we see with him later with Ivan Drago in Rocky IV. But Adrian, she centers us back on their connection. You're right back to her. Do you want me to rub your legs, on the couch and just being sweet? The fight with Apollo looking super choreographed, as Steven mentioned. Adrian brings it right back because she's breaking your heart running through that crowd to get to Rocky, right? You don't care about what that fight looked like anymore because that's not what this movie's about. Talia Shire, she also does this all with class. Normally, 70s, 80s, 90s, you're getting the makeover montage. She wants to be Sandy in Grease, okay? They're gonna zhuzh her up. So Rocky's like, whoa, Adrian, like, I didn't know you could look like that. But she doesn't do that. She just becomes a more confident version of herself. The outfit silhouettes are still the same. The hats are still the same. It's just a little bit brighter color, a little more smile on her face. That's real character development, and she understands the assignment.
But let's not forget, they did do the taking the glasses off. Let's take off those glasses. And he takes them off of her. And it's like the realization that it's that princess, like the stupid 80s or 90s movies where the swan, where the ugly duck becomes the swan, right? So they do that a little bit.
You think he didn't understand how beautiful she was with her glasses on, and that's why he wanted her to take them off?
No, Gene, it's about her seeing how beautiful she is inside.
She don't know she's beautiful.
Yes, he was trying to make her realize how beautiful she was. I feel bad. Like I like the wounded girls because I was a wounded guy, right? Even to this day, I don't think I'd have a good gauge on when people should take the next step, right? We did Sideways, and I was like, oh, I don't know if he should be trying to make a move. I'm not good at reading the room. I can never tell when you should take the next step. I always hesitate, and I know you're similar like that. I don't ever want to be assuming incorrectly that someone wants to, but at the same point, you have to make a move. Otherwise, you'll never know. And there's the scene here where Rocky takes her on the date. They go ice skating. And the courtship is very strange. And because Rocky has nothing, he's got no job. He's got no home. He's got no class. He's not the smartest guy. Yes, he's sweet, but he's trying to really push it. He goes on the date. It's been a good date. At that point, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to say, hey, I had a good first date. Maybe we'll go out again. She's a quiet girl. It's Paulie's sister. She's outside. And he's, hey, you want to come up to my apartment? And she's like, no, I'm okay. So I'm like, Rock, let her go. Let her go. Count it as a good night, right? And he keeps pushing it. And he keeps pushing it. And in Rocky, he gets her in. He locks the door. And then he starts pacing. And he's talking nonstop. And he's like, hey, I'm going to take my shirt off because it's hot in here. And I was wearing an undershirt. He's like, let's put some music on. And the whole time I'm like, I'm thinking in my mind, Adrian's not digging it. And I'm feeling bad for her. And I was feeling like, not like Rocky's going to be a bad dude and he's going to do something, right? But I'm thinking about her side of it as a 50-year-old guy that I never thought of before. And this hookup scene hits real different, okay? And it's not about Rocky being dangerous or creepy. He's talking to her in his apartment. And I'm thinking about what she must be thinking about, right? She's been overlooked. She's been made fun of. She's never really had a chance to grow into herself. She's living with Paulie, not on her own. She's beholden to him. She's a slave to him, right? And now she's got Rocky. It must feel like it's her best opportunity. Whether or not she likes him, whether or not she's really into him. It's this moment where she's thinking, I'm here, I'm in Philly, I don't really have any hope. Maybe this could be my kindred spirit. Maybe him and I. This could be the opportunity to connect. In this messy, filthy apartment. Would you ever take a girl home, Gene, to your apartment? There is like open containers of food. There's trash. It is a shamble. It's a mess. And this whole uncomfortable situation, it got real to me. And I felt such sympathy for her and sympathy for him that these two lost people, and I got over the fact of how bad he must have smelled because he's all sweaty and he'd been running around, and I started like kicking into my insecure side. Would she really want to be kissing him? And what I know you don't like to become romantic after you've been sweaty. You like to be presentable and clean. And these two genuine damaged souls, there is a core to it that I had never realized before. And I felt such sympathy for Adrian.
Look, she goes over to his apartment. So I want to preface my take by saying that, okay? She knew where they were going. And it's not like he was going to let her walk home by herself. So at any point during this walk, she could have been like, yeah, Rock, that was a nice day. Like, you can walk me home now, right? She didn't. She went to his apartment. He's not going to go into his apartment and just tell her, okay, have fun walking home. Like, that's not how that works. I get what they're going for here. I'm not going to cancel Rocky. But when a woman tells you verbally, I am not comfortable.
She says
that. I am not comfortable. You don't respond with, I'm uncomfortable too. Okay? You don't make it about you. She just literally said, I want to go. I am not comfortable. And then he physically, boom, blocks the door. He is a pro boxer, twice her size.
Yeah.
She is alone in his apartment. He is physically blocking a locked door after she has said, I am not comfortable. Okay. It gave me some real Mike Tyson vibes. And I honestly, Big D, I just wanted the scene to be over. I was so uncomfortable watching it.
And it's not like he's even a bad guy. It's not like he even would realize what he was doing. But again, and I don't think I'm becoming woke in this as more sensitive. I always think, and I sent you something I think recently about the like things a dad should teach their daughters, right? That you and like number one was it that I should teach Emma. Her personal safety should never take a back seat to making someone else feel comfortable, right? A lot of women will be in a situation just because they don't want it to be awkward and make maybe somebody else feel uncomfortable. Here, Adrian, she's got no out, right? Even if she's not into Rock, Rock's not going to rape her. But at the same point, she's got to be like, fuck, all right, I'll kiss him, even if she didn't want to.
He's not going to rape her, but she doesn't know he's not going to rape her.
No,
in her shoes, it's like, Jesus Christ, I'm so fucked right now. This is bad. I should never have come in here.
Right. So luckily, it was a good one. So luckily,
yeah. Luckily, they just collapsed to the floor.
Yeah, but it's God. It's such a fucked up situation.
On New Year's Day, an overconfident Apollo Creed enters the fight dressed as George Washington and then Uncle Sam. Rocky knocks him down in the first round, and Creed takes Rocky more seriously for the rest of the fight. The fight goes for a full 15 rounds, with both combatants sustaining various injuries. As the fight concludes, Creed's superior skill is countered by Rocky's incredible stamina, toughness, and unbreakable will. As the final bell sounds, both fighters promise each other there will be no rematch. No rematch?
Liars.
My only real complaint about Rocky is the lack of defense in the boxing ring. Okay. Boxing, ladies and gentlemen, is called the sweet science for a reason, because it is a beautiful flow of angles and feints and fakes. And a good fighter, Big D, does about a ratio 1-to-1. For every punch he or she is going to throw, there will be some other movement to create that opening, to throw off the other boxer's timing. Okay. You can't just sit there and tee off on each other. That'd be a very short fight. Most great fighters, they're going 2 feints or fakes to each one punch. And I can tell you, like, as a person who trains, I'm not calling myself a boxer, not even at the amateur level, right? But as a person who trains and spars twice a week, I can tell you that part of it is the tough part. Watching the eyes, the chest, the hips, watching the footwork, watching the hands. Like, it is exhausting. It is a mentally exhausting game to play. And you cannot just sit there and throw punches at each other. And newsflash, folks, you can use your gloves to block incoming punches. You don't have to keep them down at your waist. Rocky, throughout this fight, walks toward Apollo and just eats punches. He stands in his range. He just stands there eating punches. He doesn't circle. He doesn't attempt to move. And I understand. I get it, guys. He is the less skilled fighter. It's written into the script. I understand that. But any guy with like a month of training would know better than to fight the way Sylvester Stallone is fighting in this. And then they inject this other thing, this idea that Rocky has to get mad to start fighting well. We see it in his fight with Spider at the beginning. We see it again with Apollo. And again, as a person who trains, I can tell you, in combat sports, from the bottom to the top, getting mad is a liability. And there's a difference. I'm not saying that people are nice. What I'm saying is you can have bad intentions. You can want to hurt the other guy, but that is different from being angry or wounded. Once you're at that point, you are not fighting at your top level.
Gene. I think I'm going to have to try to make my case here. I think I'm going to have to go up on the stand here and try to sway the jury. And I don't want to belittle you, I think, but maybe your training had you miss some key components to the story.
Okay.
Right. You're thinking as somebody who is tactically trained.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you've done Krav Maga, so you're multiple disciplines, right? Rocky, what I like is he's honest with himself. He knows he doesn't have a chance to win. He says it. He says, I'm not going to win. I can't beat Apollo. Instead, what's his goal? His goal is to last. His goal is to go the distance. He knows his strength isn't speed. It's not his ability to throw punches. His abilities to take a punch, Gene. He's had 40 fights, and what does he keep saying? I never broke my nose. He can eat a punch. That's his greatest weapon, is his ability to lead with his face. That's his whole point. The whole thing he's going to do is he's going to tire out Apollo by having him eat punches, because that's the only thing he can do. That's the only thing. The more realistic thing is that, unrealistic thing, I should say, is that he puts down Apollo out of the blue with an uppercut. But other than that, his whole point was to tire him out, to tie him up.
Well, let's not forget, Rocky has won 40 fights. Of those, he won 38 by knockout. So he can swing. He just can't do defense at all. And if you want to go the distance, a really great way to do that is to cover your fucking face, man.
That would make sense.
Eat that punch with your glove.
That would make sense. But at what point, Gene, did we see him learn? What did Mickey teach him? Mickey teach him, you're going to eat lightning and crap thunder, kid.
Oh, you forgot. If you tie a string to between your feet, you move better.
It's unrealistic that this fight would even get to this point, because Rocky hasn't been doing anything to make his chances better, to have him win. We see some where he's basically, it's a lot of cardio, which is probably smart. You know, you want him to be in condition, but he doesn't do any real training. Mickey doesn't get him on any routine other than doing some sit-ups and holding his feet. You know, Mickey's there going to teach him a little bit. But how do they train? So let's break down his training montage, right? He does a lot of running in the streets in an old pair of Chuck Taylor Converse All-Stars, the canvas ones. Dirty ass sweatpants, a sweat top, some kind of towel around his neck. He gets up in the morning. He punches frozen beef in a locker. He hits his wall and door quite a bit. I kept waiting for him to break his hand. He doesn't. He drinks 6 eggs raw every morning. He still smokes occasionally. He still drinks. He doesn't lift weights other than those 5-pound, like Richard Simmons dumbbells that he goes running through the streets. And eventually, when he runs up the stairs to the Rocky theme, there's no way he is trained enough. I'm surprised. You know what they should have done? Paulie should have been swinging the sides of beef and just smashing Rocky to train him to become tough. Almost like in all of the movies that we do with the mixed martial arts, where like Van Damme will get hit with the bamboo, something to toughen him up. But there's no way that this man in this shape in 5 weeks would have been able to do anything with his training regimen.
Those aren't dumbbells. It's so much dumber than that, Big D. They're bricks. He's running around carrying bricks as part of his training regimen. And I totally agree with you that Rocky has no business being in the ring with Apollo Creed. I cannot overstate the difference in talent between the world heavyweight champ and a club fighter who went 44-20 locally in Philadelphia. Okay. They establish Apollo is 46-0. He's never been knocked down. No one's lasted an entire fight with him for it to even go to a decision. But what we have to remember is Apollo isn't approaching the fight as a fight. Okay. He's approaching this fight as an exhibition. So when Rocky hits him with that uppercut, I'm guessing that might have scrambled his operating system and made him think totally differently about the way this fight was going and maybe not be at the top of his game anymore.
And because this is based on an actual fight. It was Muhammad Ali it was some underdog named Chuck Wepner, who was a tough guy, who Muhammad Ali was dancing around, was doing the whole showboating thing, and he got knocked down and went 15 rounds, and it was the inspiration. So that's, I think, where they took a lot of it from. But it's, they were in no class together, and he can fucking eat a punch.
That's why they call it a puncher's chance, right? It could always happen.
And the one like real case of this upset happening in my life was the Buster Douglas.
Oh, yeah. I remember the Buster Douglas fight.
So my father was we have the place up in the Catskills we talked about. And Mike Tyson was training with Customato in Kingston. He was a local kid. And Customato had taken him in. So my father had really enjoyed. And we used to watch on Saturday afternoons. It was on like ABC or NBC, which would have boxing matches. And we would watch Tyson rise up through the ranks. And he actually wore his little white shorts. And there was the boxing gym where they trained in Kingston. We would drive by it. And when he finally got to this point where he was underestimating his opponents, and he finally scheduled Buster Douglas, who had tons of talent but had never achieved anything, I watched a 30 for 30 on Buster Douglas, where I guess his father had either passed away or some tragedy with his father that sparked in him to train. And Tyson had no idea that Buster Douglas went out there and busted his ass and trained himself and got into great shape. So when he came in, Tyson wasn't ready for it. In this case, Rock, he does what he can. And it's just amazing. Like you said, at any point, anyone can take out anybody else. That's why I never underestimate anyone. Even when you and I sparred, Gene, my only advantage to you is my pendulous scrotum that was like slapping around you and my sheer mass. Other than that, I really had no defense against your skills.
Well, you're bigger now, right?
Yes, but I still think it would be the same. My balls are still formidable.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't talking about your body. There's a life lesson in Rocky's approach to the fight. Like you said, the Yoda of Philadelphia, because they established he is scared going into this. And that's a very important aspect of this film. He has imposter syndrome. He knows he can't beat Apollo. When you talk Big D about people reflecting back on Rocky and remembering 2, 3, 4, 5, they often forget that in Rocky 1, not only is he not supposed to win, but he knows that he's not supposed to win. So he sets that personal goal, as you said, go the distance.
Yeah.
If he can be standing when that final bell rings, he's won. And that's a really important life lesson. It got me thinking, we know we're not going to be the biggest podcast in the world. We don't have that kind of star power, that kind of backing, that kind of talent. But we podcast anyway. Why? Because listeners are counting on Shat the Movies for their drive to work or their dog walk or when they're raw dogging on a Saturday night. Yes. And every time I hear a commissioner explain their connection to a movie like Steven just did and why they want to hear us, two guys that never met, talk about it, that gives me purpose. Your goal doesn't have to be someone else's definition of success. And I think that was such a cool thing that Rocky did because, as you've said on other sports movies, all too often, they have to win the miracle championship. That's the only way the underdog story is satisfied. No, that's not the case. Rocky knew he wasn't going to win. He did the fight anyway. He knew he could have stayed down at any point. Mickey's yelling at him, stay down. But he's not going to do that because it's important for him to do one thing, and that's be standing when the bell rings. It's beautiful.
And I was half expecting him when he says, I can't do it, that he was going to try to back out or whatever. He doesn't. And Gene, I want to thank you. You've become my Mickey tonight. Oh. Right. I've had a long weekend. I'm at multiple volleyball tournaments up at 5:30. You can see my face. I've been burned. I'm dehydrated. I'm sore from a long weekend. And I was feeling punch drunk. I was about to call you and say, I can't record tonight. But now I'm rallied up. I'm hearing the anthem, the theme in my head about I can walk into punches. I'm going to eat these punches, Gene. The mean comments, the terrible things that people say online or people... I'm going to eat those punches. I'm going to walk in like Rocky. I'm not going to put my hands up and block them. I'm going to take a punch because that will somehow help our listeners.
How the fuck is it that nobody on, now that we're doing all these videos, that nobody on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook ever makes fun of the way we look? Like, are we that good looking?
No, I think people have said, they've said some not complimentary things about me about like
somebody said that you look like John Goodman's stunt double. They didn't say you look like John Goodman. They said you look like John Goodman's stunt double.
That's true.
As the ring is flooded with reporters and excited fans, Rocky calls out repeatedly for Adrian, who runs down as Paulie distracts security, helping her get into the ring. As the announcer declares Creed the winner by virtue of a split decision, Rocky and Adrian embrace and profess their love for each other, unconcerned with the outcome of the fight.
We can't go any further without talking about Paulie. I know we're at the end here, but Paulie, he might be the most toxic person. And
he's a piece of shit.
He is garbage. And I would like to say, normally at this point, I would say if we didn't have Rocky 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, Creed, Paula, whatever, I would like to say to Eugene, like, hey, where do you think this relationship will go? How will Paulie take him down? Right. Because he is the worst. Rocky is like fighting just to stay afloat. He's drowning in a sea. And Paulie is just climbing on his back at every opportunity. He is a sloppy, angry drunk. He's constantly taking out his frustration on Adrian, which then brings Rocky down. The way he's treating her, he's threatening her. He throws that Thanksgiving turkey into the backyard right? He's angry at the world and nothing can improve his situation. He keeps leaning on Rock to get him connected into his little underground, leg breaking operation that he's doing. And I just felt bad for him. And I felt like this guy is trying to do the right thing. And there's no accountability. There's just bitterness and entitlement for him. I know that Paulie somehow becomes a valuable asset to Rocky and his team and his entourage. I don't see it other than it's Adrian's brother. We're both married now, and we have members of our extended family. Family can be challenging. Do you think in a real world, or even in the world of this movie, that if Paulie was not Adrian's brother, that he would put up with it, that he would let his life be brought down? I tell Emma, people either bring you up or push you down. Paulie brings down Rocky. Would that happen if he wasn't in love with Adrian?
Yes, but big caveat there is Rocky's going against his own advice. Because when he's talking to that girl walking her home, he's like, you hang out with smart people, you get to be a smart person. You hang out with yo-yos, you're going to be a yo-yo. And it is a really hard thing to do, to cut people who are toxic out of your life. I'm terrible at it. Rocky's terrible at it. And we see this theme resurface later in the franchise. He has perversely deep empathy for those around him, not just sympathy, empathy. He puts himself in their shoes, and that's what motivates him, right? He can't turn his back on people, even when those people let him down. And you're talking about Paulie, Mickey's right there with him. Mickey's right there with him because he's training at Mickey's gym. Mickey kicks him out of his own locker. Mickey has not reached out to him. Mickey's not said at any point, Rocky, I think you can be great. Rocky, let's get you on the right path. Rocky, I'm going to look out for you, make you my number one priority, until there's a meal ticket there, until Rocky's got the opportunity to go against the world heavyweight champ. And Mickey says, what? I want to be your manager. And Rocky argues with him. There's an entire debate there. But what breaks Rocky? It's when he hears Mickey say that he's 76 years old. When he sees Mickey break down, he goes, fuck, I can't let this guy go. And he goes out in the street and he shakes hands with Mickey and they make a deal, right? He doesn't add either of these guys to the team because they convince him. He adds them because he feels bad for them. And that's a fucking dangerous game to play. He's lucky it works out.
And I think that's what happens in a lot of these pro athletes who make it big.
Oh, yeah.
They feel it's their obligation to bring up their entire family, their friends, their community. And a lot of times, those people who are closest to you don't have your best interests in mind.
No, and you see this with parents too, right? Parents who do a shit job of raising a kid, but that kid somehow makes it, right? And those parents are like, well, I brought you into this world and I raised you. The kid didn't fucking ask for that. And it's not because of you that they made it. It's despite you that they made it.
And am I correct? It plays out, right? That Rocky goes broke because, isn't it Paulie and the rest of the family? They're kind of the promoter. There was that Don King type promoter.
Yep.
Pushing the Italian stallion to fight, even though he's had some kind of a traumatic injury.
But that's what part of what makes Rocky so amazing.
Yeah.
Like, he is a genuinely good human being throughout the movie. He goes home every night. He's not a clever guy. He's not good with words, but he writes Adrian a new joke every day, even if she never laughs. He sit there and he's like, oh, more moths than flies. And I'll go with that one, and he brings to her. He's nice to the fucking doo-wop guys on the corner. Nobody likes those guys. That's got to be the most annoying people in the neighborhood. He imitates Tarzan for Butt Kiss the dog. It's not because it's what dogs like. He just wants to do something nice for a dog and doesn't know anything about dogs. But he's trying. He collects money from that guy, Bob. And Gazzo tells him, break his finger and give me my $200. Yeah. He won't break his finger. He won't even take his coat because he's like, it's cold out. Like, I'm not going to take a man's coat when it's cold out. He warns a kid before using a bad word. He's like, okay, I'm going to use a bad word here. Whore.
Yes.
And did you catch how he defended Apollo against a racist bartender?
1,000%.
Yeah.
And even though he has a job where he's hurting people, like you said, he cares. You can't be a bad person and have turtles. It's impossible.
They make a good soup.
You can't, and to have two goldfish or two little fish that you put in their little bowls and put them next to each other to be friends. Yeah. And that you actually go out and you get your fish food and flakes and you feed your turtles. It's impossible to be a bad human. Hitler, there's no way Hitler had turtles.
Actually, Hitler preferred animals to humans. I'm not advocating for Hitler. I'm just saying one weird thing about Hitler: loved painting, loved animals. He was a vegetarian,
but he was a dog person. He liked German shepherds. I don't see any reference to him having turtles. Zero.
I don't know if there were a lot of turtles in Berlin at the time.
If you go into someone's apartment, like Adrian did, she saw the turtles.
Yeah.
She knows she's not getting raped.
Just think about the fact that Sylvester Stallone sat down and he's writing this character that's going to be him. He's like, I'm going to be in a boxing movie. And he could have gone and written the most badass, tough guy, spit snails kind of guy. And he was like, no, he's going to have turtles.
That's fucking awesome.
He's going to do Tarzan for dogs. He's going to have fish that doesn't want to be lonely. Like that's beautiful writing, man. That's really beautiful. And 2 years ago, Big D, we lost Carl Weathers. And Carl Weathers, for those not familiar, he was in Rocky. He was in Predator. He kind of became a parody of himself intentionally on Arrested Development as this like thrifty, mooching former Hollywood star. And I think because of that, people forgot that Carl Weathers actually could act and was actually kind of amazing. And Rocky is such a great reminder that he absolutely understood the assignment. Apollo Creed is not a villain, right? He's an opponent. And there's a difference there. He wants boxing to succeed. And I talked about how like he wasn't training and taking Rocky seriously. Instead, he was more concerned with the promotion than he was with the training. It's not because he's arrogant. It's not because he's bombastic, right? He is a showman. He's making all of this happen. And I think a casual observer will mistake the persona that Apollo Creed has with Apollo Creed. Weathers does not do that. Carl Weathers gets that Apollo is a mask. Creed himself, he doesn't think that Rocky's a good cook just because he's Italian. If boxing doesn't work out, he could be a cook. Or that Rocky doesn't deserve to be in that ring. It's a show. He's making opportunities for himself and for other people. And that opens the door for him to be this incredible character in the sequel. R.I.P. Carl Weathers, and thank you for this gift.
And there's an iconic story of his auditioning for the role. So when he went in to read, he actually was reading lines with Sylvester Stallone during the audition. He didn't know it was Stallone. So Stallone was mumbling the words. So Weathers turned to the stand-in producers and said, listen, I could do a much better job if you got a real actor in here to do these lines with me. And Stallone loved it. And Stallone based a lot of his flamboyant nature around that. And that made Carl Weathers was the genuine, that's who he was.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, he was a good one. His physique, incredible.
Yeah, he looked good.
Look good.
I want you. I want all of you. All right, Big D, now's the time of the podcast we give our Shat score for Rocky. The Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It's eating lightning and crapping thunder. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster. It's when you're a tomato. Big D, please do the honors.
I'm going to call a big audible.
Whoa.
I was originally on my own. I was going to go 3.25 wipes. And I'm going to tell you, here was my original, right, that I thought. I was going to say, back in 76, this probably felt original. It felt different. It felt low budget. It felt like something you hadn't seen. People probably were like, oh, wow, this is so great. And it's the underdog story and the performances are solid. And you saw the Academy Awards. And even when Stallone is at the Academy Awards, he's still doing that Rocky, that aw shucks, right? And I thought now, because in the subsequent years, these stories are told much better. But I don't think that's fair of me to penalize the movie for that. You know, there is a heart in the film that maybe I underestimated until we talked about it. The genuine heart that beats inside of the character of Rocky's chest. He is a child trying to find his way, realizing his strengths, realizing the value of latching. I said he's a kid swimming in the water, that he finds people to latch onto. And there is something then that we can pull from it. So I was going to go a 3.25 wipes. I think I'm going to go like 1.75. I'm going to knock it down. There's a lot more to it that I don't think I gave credit for it. I thought it was more inexperience in writing the character that maybe I believe in you, that he is a smarter guy who had, architected this character to be more layered than I originally thought. Sorry if that's a big change.
No, I was excited that you were reducing your wipe score, but that is a monumental shift from going from below average to outstanding. No, I mean, I couldn't be happier. This is one of my favorite movies. As I said, I host a Rocky marathon. I might have to do another one just to celebrate. I'm right up there with you, Big D. Stallone managed to write a boxing movie that is romantic, funny, exciting, inspiring as the Yoda of Philadelphia, and visually gorgeous. I haven't even really talked about how beautiful this movie looks other than the set. We didn't talk about the costuming, right? The costuming, you mentioned Adrian's outfits, but it is bare bones, but it is iconic. It is lived in, right? Particularly Rocky's trademark, the hat, the leather jacket, and he just changes what's underneath it depending on the occasion, right? It might be a V-neck, it might be a sweatshirt. Adrian's incredible outfits, that ice skating scene with her skating and him jogging along beside her, it's so beautiful. Paulie walking home drunk at Christmas and like falling over that fence.
Trash
the
can.
Banners of the fighters, they hung up in the bunting, the pink cardigans that like Mickey in the corner, in Rocky's corner were wearing. Just so much beautiful stuff to look at. My only complaint is what Steven called out. The boxing, it looked terrible. And one other thing, there was one moment where Sylvester Stallone's amateur nature, I think, pokes its eye out there, or possibly it was the directing, but there's this mirror scene. Rocky goes home. He's talking to the Turtles. He goes and looks in the mirror, and then he sees a photo of himself as a child. It's on the mirror, and he's just looking at himself like, "Oh, what have I become?" Whatever. And it's just, it lingers. It's very 70s. It's a very 70s move, and they probably could have shaved, 30 seconds to a minute off the movie, but it would have made it a better movie.
But I saw a parallel to when he was in Paulie's house, and Paulie was staring at the picture of himself in uniform, and he smashed it with the bat.
Oh, no, I agree with you there. What I'm saying is that's like something a college kid would write. Like they both look at themselves.
I think, yes. I don't think it was that bad.
All right. Well, with one wipe from me and 1 3/4 wipes from you, that gives us an average wipe score of 1.375 wipes for 1976's Rocky.
So, Gene, even though that is significantly better than where we were going, it's going to bunch this with some films I don't think you would expect. It's in the 117 spot with A Fish Called Wanda and Used Cars. Slightly better than Total Recall, The Mummy, Fear and Loathing, and One Crazy Summer, and slightly worse than Scream, Office Space, and Lethal Weapon. But still, it's up there in the top 25%.
Steven, I hope this makes good for Hoosiers. Maybe three-peat and give us another one. Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
So, Gene, next week, a routine space mission quickly turns into a life-or-death crisis with an unexpected explosion leaves 3 astronauts stranded far away from Earth with limited oxygen, power, and time. Both the crew and the mission controller forced to improvise a solution no one ever trained for. Back on the ground, a team of engineers race against the clock to turn everyday materials into lifelines. It becomes less about reaching the destination and more about finding a way to survive the journey home. So next week's film, Gene, we're going to watch the story about ingenuity, pressure, and what happens when everything goes wrong miles away from Earth. And it's a big one. Came out in 95. And, this is another
$1 million budget.
Yeah, this was not a $900,000 budget. Was not.
I've never seen this one.
What? You've never seen this?
Never seen it.
I just always worry going back that Ron Howard is a little bit aw shucks. Sometimes he's a bit opey.
You know what? In this day and age, that might be good for us. Like a little American optimism, those golden years. I'm okay with that right now. I need it. It's good for my soul.
Agreed.
Well, thank you, Dalen, for the upcoming commission. Thank you, Steven and Hot Sauce Steve for Rocky. Thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media, share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by buying our merch or commissioning your own movie. Find all the information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. Review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next time for the following movie.
Apollo 13 flight controllers, give me a go, no go for launch. Booster. Go. Retro. Go. Network. Go. Recovery. Go. We are go for launch.
Apollo 13. A million things could have gone wrong.
Our next broadcast will be from the surface of the moon.
One dead.
Houston, we have a problem.
The Odyssey is dying.
Failure is not an option. We're just going to figure out how to stay alive.
Tom Hanks. Apollo 13. Rated PG.
Starts Friday, June 30th at theaters everywhere.
Sorry if that was rambling, but
No. I mean, yeah, talk about people who just say everything they think about. No, I mean,
fuck you.